Okay, let's start off with a prayer in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Good and gracious God, we reach out to you this night as we begin to look forward to Advent and the birth of your Son. We ask that you be with us and guide us, and know that we are trying to continue your work among the extreme conditions with which we find ourselves these days. We ask that you bless us, keep our families safe, keep us safe, and help us to get closer to you. And we ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. So here we are, and the last time we were all together was in April, I guess it was, when we did our last training. I'm sorry?
May.
Was it May?
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a while, and the bishop has come out with some revised mandates and protocols for us to be working with. And two of them in particular. One is how we seat people, and the other one is how we distribute communion. So one of the things that he has asked or told us is that we can begin to slowly ease our seating and move closer to a 50% seating. Well, what that means, though, is that we still have to seat people around 6 feet apart from each other, and we're not going to get rid of the masks. So we're still going to be wearing masks. We're still going to be probably 6 feet apart, but we can use spaces in the unused pews to seat more people. For example, if we have two families sitting in the front row, and we seat them so that they're at the two extreme ends, we're now allowed to put somebody in the next pew in the middle between them, as long as the two of them on the outside, that there's still a distance between them in terms of seating. So that means that instead of 4 seats or 4 cushions apart, if you're sitting somebody 1 row back, they can be 3 seats apart from the angles. Okay, does that make any sense?
They still have to be 4 seats apart within 2 groups.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, all right.
So
in general, if you kind of face this way, facing them, they're going to both get you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you just won't really see them, but they're going to get you.
Okay.
So sorry about that.
So if the front row seats 8 people, we can put 2 and 2, and there's still 4 seats between them. Well, then we can come to the second pew and we can put somebody in the middle between those 2 groups, as long as it's only 1 or 2 people. As you move further back into the church, you're going to be able to get even more people with this triangular seating arrangement. So the big thing is to understand is that as we begin to seat, we're going to be seating in triangles. Okay? So think Trinity. We're going to be seating people in triangles so that everybody can maintain a certain distance from each other, and yet we can take advantage of that, what's up till now has been a vacant pew. So the hosts are going to have this responsibility when they seat people to be able to kind of work a Tetris puzzle and fit people in where they see that there's a spot. So to help that along, we are going to begin the process of seating everyone beginning in the front of the church and moving by pew by pew by pew, moving backwards. So everybody will be moving to the front to start with.
So just to note, that's a change from previously.
Yeah.
So
We're asking you to not be really good Catholics and sit in the back anymore.
That's what I was just going to make that comment, because I'm telling you, I get people, the last thing they want to do is go front.
And they also have their places where they always sat.
Well, that's.
And we're going to have to be firm and the announcements or the workup is going to be coming to the point of saying, we know this is uncomfortable. However, if we try and maintain what we've always done, in a way, it's kind of selfish because you're excluding other people from having a seat.
And so just so everyone knows, the plan right now is we're training the hosts and the greeters to know the flow. And then we'll be educating the general congregation in probably next week about how it's going to be from front to back. When you arrive, it's going to be affect where you're seated. So.
And it explicitly says that, like, your arrival time will probably dictate where you sit in the church. Because that was something that people had a hardship with when we first reopened, was that.
Oh, they still have a hardship. No, I'm telling you, every Sunday there's a hardship.
I know. I
mean,
watched.
And I'm gonna say this right now, because we need a lot of support from the pulpit. We need to have the priest say, hey, this is the way it's gonna be. Don't make yourself a problem. Sit where the host needs you to sit. And if you don't do that, we're never gonna get anybody to cooperate.
I think right now, the idea is that we will have some of those announcements. We are going to be using Trip to make some of the announcements. To listen to Trip before they listen to anybody else. So
That says a lot, then.
we're kind of pulling out those steps to be able to get this accomplished. We have a real short time frame. That's why we're kind of racing along and trying to get the volunteers set up to begin with. The next thing is, and we'll talk about the flow. Are all of you already familiar with the flow of seating in the church and how we go to communion? Because I think that most people, I know Kim seats people regularly. You're usually a host for section C.
I do D.
You do D. You're C. You haven't done it yet? Okay. So we're going to maintain a lot of the same positions. We're going to have a couple of people at the end of the walkway by the parking lot, asking the questions and checking them in. So that's going to stay the same. We're still going to have somebody that's going to be at the double doors, the wood doors, but their job is going to also to be help to direct people into the chapel in the narthex area.
And that could be a good role of someone that's a greeter to remind them, you will be seated from the front of the church to the back. So please just go to where they tell you to go.
Yeah, people are going to tell you where to go. Get used to it. I get told where to go all the time.
I have a question.
Sure.
So I can spend more time with my husband if he doesn't want to do any of that, because I'm being host. As a greeter, you see people till really basically mass starts,
Mhm.
then you can go in and then you have nothing else to do.
And so, as a greeter, that is correct.
Until the end of everybody leaves.
No, even the greeter at the door, their job is mainly
Okay,
done when mass begins.
all right.
Because they have set people in the narthex or in the chapel and have really just greeted people and got them to move into the church to get picked up by a host.
Can I ask a question? How many people are on this break?
Right now, 3, 4.
I think the obvious question
Where are we gonna get them all?
is,
We're gonna, we need 5 per mix.
and again, it seems to me that that's where the pulpit can help. And if it helps in each one of the masses on Sunday, basically, I think what somebody has to say is, hey, we need volunteers. You're here, you need to help your fellow Christians, your fellow Catholics. Let's get some, raise your hand or sign up, because it's just unbelievable. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
We started off with a whole lot and then.
I know, yeah, I don't understand it.
Okay, let's circle back to stay focused on our goals here.
Yes, I understand, yes. Part of the issue though that we do have is that we only have until the Sunday after Thanksgiving, the weekend after Thanksgiving to get this up and going.
That's exactly right.
Okay, so the flow is going to be the same. They're going to be direct.
We lost Deacon Tim.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we could just talk to, Martin, do you host at one of the other masses? Or is this a new thing you're doing?
I've done lector, but we've kind of been avoiding hosting or Eucharistic right now. Just trying to minimize bringing it into my folks.
Yes. We've been doing, going to the 5, and I have been hosting section D, but it's amazing. It's mostly the same people who come every week, and they sort of go into the same seats.
Yeah, in all honesty, I do that too.
Yeah. I see that, I have had pushback on people who actually said to me, I've been sitting here since the warehouse
Oh, yeah.
days. I mean, like, I've been here since the warehouse, and how,
My answer to them is
like,
too bad.
I'm not arguing, okay, but I'm thinking that, and I actually don't even see people. They just fill in themselves, and it's never been a problem. I had a little bit of an uncomfortable feeling when somebody comes in late and then they sort of fill in where it's not a standard seat, but
Yeah, shucks, the 2 phone numbers I have for Annie are both landline, so I couldn't text her.
I wonder if they even know. It's funny how we're still on Zoom, but
Yeah. Oh, wait, there she is.
Okay, we got you back. But we don't have sound.
Because nobody is in the aisle.
Here we go.
Sorry about that, guys.
Okay. So had you heard any of the previous conversation at all? Okay.
Maybe. Was it
Sorry,
worth listening to?
Computer just shut down.
I got everything until we were.
Okay. So we're going to be still seating people in the pews going from left to right. And we will seat from the front to the back. Okay? So that's number one. The second thing is Debbie was asking, once you receive the ciborium, is there a certain path to go back to where you're giving communion out? And the answer is no. Just proceed to the back to the station just as you can get there. Okay? Sanitizing hands, dropping the mask, that all stays the same. That's no real big deal. We are still hoping that the extraordinary ministers will receive communion at the end of communion when you bring your ciborium back to the altar. That works about half the time. So, and I found that it's one of the priests that want to give out communion beforehand instead of waiting. So I'm addressing that with the priest. But we're all really flexible, right? So if all of a sudden he comes over and he gives you communion and then you get a bowl, well then just don't come back for seconds at the end of Mass. Okay, so the next thing is the communion flow is going to stay the same. So we go A and C, And we basically split the church in half laterally. So the front half goes forward to the priest and the deacon, the back half comes back to the back of the church to the extraordinary minister. And and then after A and C are done, we go section B and section D. And they will follow that same protocol. And then we do the narthex and the day chapel.
We've been doing that differently.
Hold it.
What have they been doing?
We've been doing narthex first.
Okay, wait a minute. As I understand, when I do D, okay, the person who is with C helps me with C. We go up, I go to the front, and the other person goes halfway, and they go out.
Right.
So it's B and C group. I think it's
No. Section A goes, but you still split it half and half. So the B host and the A host work together.
That's what I'm saying, okay.
And then, and they also do section C at the same time on that side of the church. Because you've got two over there.
Oh, yeah, okay, I see what you're saying, okay.
So we go A
And then
and
we go,
C,
yeah,
and then B and D,
yeah,
and then we want to do the chapel and the narthex.
And Debbie is saying that this is correct, at certain masses, I've definitely seen the back post on this side, have the day chapel go through and then start working on the people in the main sanctuary. And then the opposite happening on the other side, where they took care of the two sections and then came and got the narthex. So again, I'd say this is, what Deacon Tim is saying is the plan. But if you're working with someone and they do it the opposite way, if you're in the front, if you're in the front and it's, then you just watch, you just keep moving back in. If your partner has not helped you start moving forward, then you just keep moving back.
I have to admit that
Hold on just a second. Cormac, if you got a question?
No, I think he's just holding his thing, so.
I don't watch, I'm so busy on trying to do it. So does the Eucharistic minister leave his position to do the narthex and come here?
No,
Or they just go there?
They just kind of like.
they just basically turn around.
Okay, all right. Okay.
So that would be the normal flow. Section A and C together, section B and D together, split half go to the front, half come to the back. Okay? So that works the same. Kim, you've already been doing that. You understand what that flow looks like. And I think, Tony, you've seen that flow as well. And you've seen that flow, so it works out really well.
Can you
So,
just clarify,
yes,
so when communion starts, I've been starting at the very end and then working towards the middle. And the front works from the front and works towards the middle. And then, so that's correct?
that is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but the idea is we're splitting that in half is what we're doing.
Well,
So
yeah.
that we keep the flow going so that they aren't crossing paths in the middle of the aisle.
Right.
That's the biggest part. Okay? Everybody got that?
We got it.
Okay, now comes the next change. Bishop has said, starting with the first Sunday of Advent, he's going to allow communion on the tongue. However, the way that this is going to happen is very different because they can't be in the same line as everybody else. So we are asking anyone who wishes to receive communion on the tongue to come into the day chapel after Mass.
After it's dismissed.
After Mass is dismissed, into the chapel to receive communion. And either a priest or a deacon or some other person will be back here to distribute communion. Along with that procedure, whoever is distributing communion on the tongue must sanitize their hands between each and every recipient.
How was this reacting to Martin's
Can we have the bishop come and do that the first day.
No, I agree, yeah, I agree totally, but
You
no.
know, it hasn't been a problem. I have yet to, I don't know, does anybody else? have-
I think,
We
here's,
did early on.
I will be the first to be honest with this. I am probably the person that has the biggest problem with this, let it be known,
Wait a minute, having it on your tongue or not?
having it on the tongue. But here's the reality. This is the card that has been dealt to us. So this is the solution we've come up with. It's not ideal. We're hoping that more people will favor safety over their own desire to have communion on the tongue. But as someone who wanted to hash through whether or not communion on the tongue was a good idea or a bad idea, it's really counterproductive, and it is what it is. So,
And I will say also, while we may have not directly heard complaints, that doesn't mean the opposite. The bishop hasn't been the one to receive all those complaints and have to deal with them accordingly. And so, you know, I try to place myself in those shoes and say, well, if I vehemently felt that this was the best way for me to receive, and for months I have not been able to, then this will be a joyous occasion when they get this news, and perhaps they'll be like, okay, as long as you're gonna give me communion on the tongue, I will line up in the day chapel, I will have freshly sanitized priest hands giving it to me, I will do whatever you want me to do, and they'll be compliant, and I'll move on.
so yeah, just
So.
take it to prayer. Take it to prayer.
The bishop offered this in two ways. One is to establish a completely separate line in the church. And the other one, and who was his favored one, was to distribute it after Mass.
And I think.
And the reason being is the disruption of trying to establish another line in church with the possibility of crowding in an aisle or whatever. For the sake of safety was, let's do it. Here's another option.
And as a matter of fact, I think that's a good option because there would be people, okay, who would get in that line, even though that's not a big issue for them. And so, but having to come back here after they have to get it here might prompt them to say, okay, I'll be here.
Now, along with this whole operation of bringing people back here to receive on the tongue, we are still asking everybody that occupies a seat to get up and go into the line at communion so that we're not stepping over it. And so they will still do that, but then at the end, they will come into here to receive communion. Okay, does that make sense? They'll just go up and get a blessing, so they're double blessed. They get a blessing. plus a communion.
And should you, as Eucharistic minister, get someone who is trying to receive on the tongue and didn't, because it'll be said by the cantor, it'll be said by the priest, you know, what the protocol is for that step. But should they ignore it or somehow not hear either of those warnings, then just discreetly tell them, then the time.
Gently, yeah.
Yeah, the
Pastor.
time for that will be at the end of Mass, and you will just line up in the day chapel, and a priest or deacon or Eucharistic minister will serve you communion. Thank you so much. Blessings. Move on.
Okay. So, and that's just, again, the whole reason for these protocols is to keep people from crowding together and maintaining that 6 foot of space. So one of the things that we're trying to get the host to do is to say, spread out a little bit. And that does two things. Number one is it establishes the social distancing, but it also helps to get their hands dry a little bit from that sanitizer before they get to the front, if they've got a little bit of time to go ahead. Okay? Does that make sense, what I just told you?
Yeah, that's a good alternative.
So those are the two big changes. Every row, starting from the front to the back, seating in triangle type spaces. And communion on the tongue occurs after Mass in here in the chapel. And whoever is distributing communion, and right now it'll probably be either a priest or a deacon will come back here, or a deacon candidate. And they will have to sanitize their hands between each and every person who receives.
And again, I don't look here because I'm still doing stuff like this. Is the seating here controlled? Because I've never watched, I mean,
Yeah,
how does it, I don't.
there's 3 seats between family groups.
Well, I understand that, it's something one,
It's actually been an early experiment for the new model since the last, so two social action committee meetings ago, we turned the chairs around for them to have a meeting in here, and when they were put back, they were not restriped like the ones over there along the wall. And so it's been a mini experiment, so to speak, without realizing it, because families have, people have been still seating people, and these are spread apart. So they have just been seating people kind of in the every other model. Unless you're a family like mine, where I come in after the rest of my family and I throw off the seating arrangement because they sat them in 2 chairs and then I take up a 3rd chair they weren't accounting for. And you can see a person you're out.
so there is a host here.
Yes,
That is separated, okay, I just never knew.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes, why did I do that? Last September, before, because in here, there's a family, 3 people there, so we set up.
All right, so
so
is that everything,
just
the
about.
major ones? Okay.
One of the other things is that we put together these nice little graphics. They're on the parish website. They're 2-sided, and they kind of outline what those changes have done. Annie and Carrie have done an outstanding job putting this type of information together. So you'll see these posted on the parish website that outline those changes and what we're going to be doing. And they're pretty explicit, they're very well done in terms of communion on the tongue after mass, all of that kind of stuff is outlined on this, on these graphics. Any other questions?
I'm sorry, I have a lot. Look, I understand all this, and I love the new seating thing, I think it's safe. But I'm telling you that with the numbers that are going on in this county, and nationwide, but the county will be graders, an additional 2 or 3 deaths, and another 300, we're gonna have some pushback on this.
Yes.
They're gonna look at this and say, well, wait a minute, it's not a state. So we gotta make sure that they understand that the differences are somewhat minor. Because I know that,
Yeah. Basically, what we've been doing is, for the longest time, they have allowed places of worship to go to 50% capacity, seating capacity. We have never gone to 50% seating capacity.
we're allowed to.
We're about to make the accommodation that we can.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so right now, our numbers are around 250 to 270 at the bigger masses. That's 25% of our seating.
Yeah.
So we're gonna make this available because we're thinking going into Advent and Christmas that the numbers would normally increase anyway. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna make that seating available, yes. Will it be taken advantage of? I don't know. And with the numbers going up, if the county comes back and dials it back, so be it. But the training isn't in vain to begin with, because eventually we're gonna be going with this.
Yeah.
Might be good to tell people, our parishioners, we're really only about 25%. We're allowed 50, we're not doing what the other parishes are doing yet. Now we're going to.
No, all of the parishes, yeah, have been doing what they've been doing. They might be approaching 35%, but nobody has gotten to 50% seating yet.
We need to also reiterate the leading church, because that has become really difficult.
Yeah.
Really difficult. For me, and I don't know about anybody else.
Yeah.
So we got to reiterate, and as I understand it, we just go, A goes first.
That's correct.
And once
A and C go first.
they can go together.
They can, because they can go through 2 sides of the church.
Okay, all right, that's good.
And then
A and
C,
C,
and then B and D.
okay.
And all bets are off on the day chapel and Menard. I'll just let you know that, that they will do their own thing.
And the other thing is the congregation in the narthex. I mean, I see a lot of it. I don't see.
We want them outside.
Yeah, and it's not like, and so it may not, again, somebody's got to show, you know? And, no offense, but if one of the deacons decides to shake hands in the narthex, that doesn't do very good.
No, but actually,
Not you, of course.
actually what we've been trying to do is to have the celebrant and the deacon outside
Right,
underneath the overhang to try and draw the people
Right.
out rather than standing inside.
Yeah.
With colder weather coming up, I don't know what's going to happen.
So we'll buy that.
We'll see what happens. You know, yeah. Yes, Jim.
What do we do about that?
You
Oh,
tell
yeah.
them, you tell them to suck it up.
That's exactly right.
And it
Yeah.
doesn't matter because we've had some instances, and at daily mass. We've had some instances at daily mass of somebody actually not wearing it at all.
Oh, that's not.
They'll wear it to clear to their seat. The minute they get in their seat, they take it off. And Father Doug and Father Alex and John Hafner, our maintenance guy, have been regularly calling them out and saying, get it out, get it out.
Yes.
Do it gently, do it pastorally. If they refuse, tell them, come talk to one of us. And that's a good way of doing it. And say, I can't seat you until you do it.
Well,
And if you got a problem, you need to talk to the priest.
I have two ushers that leave the mask over their nose.
Oh, yeah.
And when I tell them, it's, since I'm not an official usher, I get really nasty look. And I keep telling them,
Don't worry about that.
All right.
Nasty looks are fine, and I don't care that you call out an usher, I don't care if you
oh,
call out
no,
a
by
deacon,
the way,
I don't care if you call out the priest, if
You
you
don't
don't
have to
do what
worry
you're
about
supposed to be doing.
you don't have to worry about being back at home.
So here's the objective that I want everybody to understand really clearly. If we get a series of clusters that are tied to the churches, the next thing is we're going to be right back where we were on the third Sunday of Lent. Okay? So it is in everybody's best interest, if they want to go to church, to do what we're supposed to be doing.
Can you repeat that like 3 times?
Yeah, that's
It's
really-
really given, I'm serious, you know, if you want to be able.
And you know what else? I think that this may be it. I tell people who want to sit where they can, I always tell them, I can sit you there maybe, but you have to come early. Now, they have to come late if they want to sit, you know.
That's right.
It's just a reverse.
We know it's a challenge and we thank you for taking on the challenge because it is challenging to work with any type of people, but we appreciate all that you're doing to make it happen.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, Carrie wants to talk about how we're gonna kind of beef up the scheduling a bit. And so, go ahead.
Okay.
I've been waiting.
Okay. So, we are making our best effort, to have this ready to go also with the first Sunday of Advent. So that would mean that's actually the Sunday after Thanksgiving, not the first Sunday of December. So that would, I should have to you an email with your login information for a new program called Ministry Scheduler Pro by next week. Okay, I'm working this week on getting you all in there, okay? But why are we switching when we already have systems or we've tried several systems, and why do we need to do this? And it's just a few simple reasons. I'm sure all of you at some point have signed up on maybe like a Saturday and you got here and your name wasn't on the list and somebody else scratched their name into that list because they thought the spot was open and you were planning on doing it or something like that. Or you have been signed up and committed and then something has happened at the last minute and you can't be here for mass, or you had an opportunity to see a child that you weren't expecting to see. I mean, there's a million reasons why we have to change. And as Catholics, we're blessed. We can go anywhere and receive mass at about any time of day on a Sunday here in Knoxville. So things happen, okay? So this program will be in your pocket. It can be on your phone. If you do not like technology, that is okay. At the end, I'm going to talk about that. You can choose not to use the technology, but if you want to, it can be this seamless, easy way for us to constantly update what we're doing. Should be really easy. It's called Ministry Scheduler Pro. If you are a Eucharistic minister, then Deacon Robert and Josh Floria have already done one training on it with that group. The sacristans are using it, as well as the deacons and priests and the music ministry. So we're slowly adding every group. And I mean, eventually all the way to Amy and I and catechists, and you can put nursery workers and just any category you can imagine, the whole parish should be using it. And even better, it's a permanent solution. We're not gonna like change it again because we've bought into the software, so we're gonna keep it. And so you don't have to learn a new system after this. And it can work right with if you have an iPhone, your iCalendar, if you have an Android phone, the Google Calendar or whatever is on your phone, you can seamlessly download your assignments into your calendar. So it's very user-friendly. It's a smart program, okay? So how will you use it? What will you need to do? Next week, you should get an email. It'll look like it's coming from Josh Floria, not me, but it will have your username and your password in it. And once you get that, you sign into the program for the first time, and Amy is going to share screen and show you this. So it comes from Josh, and then you would click on this link, and it takes her to the software page. And once you have, your things, you would be able to access your schedule. And so she doesn't have a schedule right now.
Oh.
Sorry, your screen sharing is paused.
Oh, is it? Okay. Maybe so. Okay. Sorry, guys.
But once you get that login, you would go in and update your profile. So when I input your profile, it has your name, your phone number, and your email address. You can add your address and other info about yourself. You can set preferences. So if you always come to 8 a.m. Mass, and that's really the only Mass you can serve, then you can set that. 8 a.m. is my only Mass. If you, let's say like Dwayne doesn't want to volunteer completely right now, but he would be willing to sub. He could join the program and mark himself as sub only in his preferences. And so he would get notifications when there's a sub opportunity and can choose to take it or not. You can set preferences for what positions what roles you can fulfill. So you can be a Eucharistic minister, but like, for example, you cannot be a Eucharistic minister and a host. So
At the same time.
So the good thing is the program will be set up so that you cannot be both on the same Sunday. It knows to not schedule you in those two fields on the same Sunday.
Even on the same Mass.
On the same Mass, correct. Tony's gonna come to 2 Masses and serve in 2. I'm really, I love it. Okay. You can also connect as a family. So if you and Connie want to make sure that you're always scheduled as a family, you can do that. You can set up to not be separated. So all those preferences can be keyed in, which is really helpful. Once you download the app on your phone, again, it's called Ministry Scheduler Pro. So in the Apple, it's been so long since I've had an iPhone. Is it called the Apple Store?
It's called the App Store.
App Store, or on the Play Store if you have an Android phone. You go in and look for Ministry Scheduler Pro and then install the app. From there, you can view your schedule, and Annie's looking at it from the web terminal, but you'll be able to click on your schedule. And right now she's not going to have anything, but if you did, it would have all of those here, and where you can import them to your calendar right there. It's just a button added in for you. And then also, if there was something here and you knew you were going to be out. So Debbie is scheduled for this coming Sunday at 10 a.m. And if something came up and she can't be there, there is a button there that says request sub. And she can click on that, and an email will go to everybody that's not assigned for this Sunday and ask them if they want to sub. And anybody, the first person to say yes takes the spot. And so there's none of this, having to check the board and see if someone's covered it, or Father saying, and Father Doug hasn't had to do this. I remember Father Michael forever saying, we need 3 Eucharistic ministers, or 2 Eucharistic ministers. And so that would all be done on your app.
if I can use this as an example, this is the music ministry, but you can show how the volunteer one.
Yes, so you can see the schedule for the upcoming masses, and then,
It's very similar to sign up.
it is similar,
Yeah,
but
it's similar, I mean, yeah, the basics.
this app exists solely, the software exists solely for churches to be able to schedule volunteers. And so that's why, and I think it's mostly Catholic churches based on just how the software seems to align with what we're doing. But it's not exclusively Catholic, but yeah. So then the other thing, only other button you need on your terminal is just that My Profile. And that's where you can change things about yourself. Like, for example, you can change your availability. So let's say that you go on I know you've gone on pilgrimage before, Debbie. So let's say Debbie is going on a pilgrimage when travel is widely available again, and she's going to be gone for 3 weeks. She can go and set that she's not available for those 3 weeks in her app. Let's say that you travel to a warmer climate for the winter, and you're going to be gone for several months. Or let's say you just need a break because you've been here every Sunday since May 31st, Pentecost Sunday, and you don't want to volunteer for a little bit. You can change any of those preferences in your profile, which Annie is doing. She's learning on the fly. So if you don't like dealing with technology, we will still, so a change would be, is that I'm going to schedule you guys for the first month. I'm not going to have everybody sign up. I'm just going to schedule people on their availability with the hope that maybe you don't have to serve every single week and you can take a break and for 1 week just enjoy participating in the mystery of the map. But we'll see if that works out that way with the numbers. But I will schedule you into the roles and you will just get your schedule on your app. Now, if you don't want to deal with that again, we will be emailing that monthly schedule out, and we will create a paper copy that's available should somebody absolutely say, I don't even want email. We can do that, but the preferred method would be to kind of use at least the web terminal. Because if you're using email, you can use this web terminal very easily. Is there a question about this?
I think it's pretty simple.
It's very user-friendly.
Yeah.
It's an intuitive program. Eventually, we're going to be using it for just about everything. So it'll be great. Yes.
I think I signed up for it.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
I think I got something in the wall.
Okay.
I'm not really sure. I can check my schedule.
Okay.
Sign,
Okay.
and maybe what it's supposed to be.
I can look at it, sure. And yes, Josh, Floria, and Deacon Robert did all the groundwork. So sadly, I purchased this for the parish well before the pandemic. And if we had been using it, we would have been in such great shape when the pandemic came. But I had not put all the effort into using it in the parish. And so Deacon Robert graciously offered to take that over, train Josh, and they have done all the key working out and all that stuff, which has been very valuable. Because today, I was able to go in and start adding a bunch of stuff to it, and they had done all the groundwork, which was very
You
nice.
bought it? You bought it?
I mean, I didn't personally buy it. I'm
I'm a
the
person.
staff member to buy it.
So you got it in comparison, you dumped it on that.
I did.
Okay, I just.
Yes. I'm very good at that.
Okay.
Deacon Tim has a question.
So at the beginning of November, on November 1st, all of the extraordinary ministers were active on ministry schedule. The last pieces to go into this are the host to readers and all of the readers. We have not got our electors into the program yet, and that's the next step.
And I'll be putting them in since they're in our volunteer list anyway, but technically I'll turn that over to the person in charge of electors. I don't look for extra things to be in charge of, but I am happy to do this one because hospitality ministry I actually love very much. So this is, again, guys, it's going to be super easy. Right now they're doing the schedules a month at a time. In the training for Eucharistic ministers, Deacon Robert alluded to potentially doing quarterly schedules at one point, which some people like and some people think is too far out. And so I don't foresee me being that far ahead of the game for a while. So you'll be getting a monthly schedule starting with the first Sunday of Advent. And we'll go from there. And I think it's going to be really easy, great. I mean, Debbie was mentioning today, and so what I'm going to send you guys along with the email, you'll get the email that has your login, that'll be its own thing, but I will send you some of the tutorial videos and things so that if you want to watch videos on how to use it, you can. I think once you start clicking into it, you'll do it without needing a video, but if you need that, there's lots of user support available, or you can call the office, and I am in the office every day except Friday, and happily help you walk through it. So, did we have any questions in the chat?
Do we have any questions from the home peeps?
Thanks, Martin. Lectures, nothing really changed, but if you're going to be doing other jobs in the future, you would need all this stuff. So thanks for joining, Martin. I appreciate it.
Wait again.
He froze because he was signing off.
Okay.
Okay, I think we're good. Do you guys have any questions? Jim, do you have it on your phone? We can even look at it for you. Oh, okay.
No, it's on.
Yes. And I'll add you guys in. I have a spreadsheet that has everybody ready to be loaded. I just need to, I want to contact some people that haven't joined us for training and see if they will, if this would make their life easier and they would come back and serve in their volunteer roles and won't be such a stretch on the same 5 or 6 people every week. So,
I don't think it's a problem.
okay.
All right.
Andy and I both took notes, just so you guys know, on some of the helpful things you guys said for us to remind everybody of, and to remind the clergy of, just areas that can be they can be supportive. And another thing in the face covering area is that if somebody is wearing something like a face covering, but it is not a face covering. We've had that a few
Like
times.
like a bandana.
Well, bandana, Deacon David wears bandanas, so I can't say no to bandanas, but like, let's say creatively using their hat to become a face covering. That doesn't work. So you can tell people that they have to have it. And if you have issues and you see one of us present, and you can even just point that person out to us and say, can you help me with this person? Because I have become known, unfortunately, as a person that's not afraid to go say that, and I will do it for you if you're uncomfortable, or if the person's being obstinate to you. I'm happy.
I said, no, the bandanas are not good.
Okay, so are there any other questions about, just to circle back about this, just as a follow-up, Carrie will send you your login and password in the next week or so, and that we're set to launch with the scheduling on Sunday of Advent. Go ahead, Jim.
You're good. Go ahead.
You know, those gaiters that you wear the, I don't know, what's that, too? Yeah, piece of cloth on the bottom. Those are things you get.
So the rules for what we consider a face covering hasn't changed, and the diocesan guidelines at the beginning did allow for gaiters and bandanas to be worn. I go, whether you love this company or not, if Disneyland doesn't let you wear it, Disney World doesn't let you wear it, we don't wear it in our house, so we don't do gaiters and bandanas because they're not allowed at Disney World. And that was a really easy way to teach our 4-year-old to wear a mask, because Mickey Mouse would not let you come to this house if you did not put a mask on. So we taught masking that way, and it worked really easy for us. And use that as not my 4-year-old particularly, but our kids wear face masks on Wednesdays and Sunday mornings and Sunday nights. Our teenagers for an hour and a half, and they don't complain because they get to be together and get to do the thing they wanted to do. And so, if it helps adults.
I'm sorry, what is a gator?
It's like this turtleneck tube thing that comes up high. It's like a tight scarf.
Oh, yeah. Well, I saw one on YouTube where a guy was under.
Oh, Lord. I mean, at the beginning, I think it was excusable to find out something to make it work. At this point in your life, the women of all saints make 15,000 masks. If you don't have one by now.
We have these big ones.
And the fire masks are always like, yeah.
Yeah, and there's only several flies because they didn't do that.
No.
I feel so bad, this one lady, She
can probably stop it.
Okay, Cormac, we're gonna end the Zoom now, so we'll see you. Thanks for logging in.
All right.
No, it's okay. It's just a very specific question and we're recording it.